It's the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to give you an update on all of the curriculums that my 4th grader, my 8th grader, and my 11th grader have been using this year. So I have a lot to share with you, and I want to say up front that because I have so much, I can't go into a lot of detail about each of these. So if there's something you want to know about one of these curriculums, leave your specific question in the comment below. If it's not something that I can answer quickly, or if I get enough of these, maybe I'll just do a follow-up Q&A of some of your very specific questions. Also, some of these curriculums I do plan to go into more detail about in future videos. So math, IEW type stuff, there will be upcoming videos where I'm going to get into more specifics. And then stay tuned to the end when I tell you the biggest change that I will be making to my homeschool this second semester. My name is Rachel, and on this channel I share all things homeschooling and motherhood, all from a biblical perspective. So if that's the kind of content you like, then you're in the right place. As I go through these things too, some of these things are intertwined between all the grades because I really do love family style learning. That has been my goal for homeschooling from the beginning. So some of the things that I'm going to talk about with my elementary age daughters will also be what my high schooler is included in. I'll make that clear. So the first thing I want to talk about, what is my essentials day or my IEW day. I can't remember what I was calling it, but I told you guys that once a week that I was going to have a special day that was going to be specific for me to teach grammar to my daughters, teach them sentence diagramming. It was going to kind of mimic what classical conversations did. I threw that idea away pretty early on because I found that, especially with our IEW, the writing program, that I really wanted to go faster than once a week for a lesson because my daughters were grasping a lot of it in a much quicker pace. And then I also just found it difficult to shift gears. I had planned it that way intentionally because sometimes the homeschool days can already be monotonous, but I think I planned too much change into this year because we already have a homeschool co-op every other week, and then our family co-op, which I will talk about, that I was actually pretty faithful to stick to. So I really didn't need this little change in the day. So I ditched that. One of my intentions for that day was I was going to use the Classical Conversations Essentials program to teach them grammar. And I just decided early on that I didn't want to do that because in Classical Conversations, it was a 2-hour-a-week class to teach it. It was a different feeling because you were there with community. It didn't feel as draining, but me sitting there and trying to hold my daughter's attention to teach it the way that Classical Conversations did, it just wasn't working. It's a lot different when you're going someplace and you've got the energy of all your friends are there and you had recess and you had lunch with them and there are other moms there who kind of pour into you and help give you energy. Well, I didn't have that, so it wasn't the same, and it felt very draining for me to do it. I think we probably did it about 4 or 5 weeks before I was like, you know what, I don't want to do this. And the Fix It grammar I felt like was better than I expected. I felt like I had a lot of different things for language arts that it was okay for me to ditch this. So I ditched diagramming the scriptures because it was too much to add in, and it actually did teach it a little bit differently than Classical Conversations did. So it was more difficult for me to translate that to my children. So I love diagramming. I personally love it. My middle child likes it, but this just wasn't a good fit this year. We'll see about future years what we do with the diagramming. The interactive journal, that actually my daughters did enjoy that, and we did it for a while, and then I just found it the other day and was like, hey, why did I quit doing that? It's like it all of a sudden fell through the cracks and I forgot about it. I think I got busy with Thanksgiving and Christmas type stuff. I forgot about it, but I think I will pick that one back up because it is a good reinforcement of some of the grammar things, and they enjoyed the tactile hands-on activities. It was a nice kinesthetic thing for them to do. But it's also one of those things that I don't feel like I have to finish it all this year. In fact, that probably goes along with one of the changes that I will be making. So I didn't feel like I needed the classical conversations essentials grammar because we had the fix-it grammar. And the fix-it grammar, which I will talk more about in a future video, it moved a lot faster and added on quicker than I remembered. I think that I remembered it being pretty easy, and maybe I remembered that because we were also doing the essentials class at the same time. Just focusing on the fix-it grammar and then the writing of the papers and focusing on grammar through that, I feel like is enough for us. Phonetic Zoo. This did not turn out the way that I had hoped. It's a fantastic idea because the audio CD gives the spelling test, so it's not teacher intensive, which is why I got it. But what ends up happening is my daughters, it's kind of like the video lessons. And this is a common complaint of the IEW curriculum where Andrew Pudawa is teaching it. Some children love that and will sit in front of a video, and other kids get impatient with it. And it's kind of the same thing with the Phonetic Zoo. My daughters did not really enjoy listening, even though the actual going through of the test is probably 10 minutes maybe. They were too impatient. They really just give me the list. Let's go through. I don't need the little jingle. They're both doing a lot better with spelling, actually. So sometimes they do the audio CD, and sometimes they just give each other the test because they feel like it moves quicker, which you can still use Phonetic Zoo that way without the audio CDs, because the cards that it comes with that has the list for A, B, and C, it still has the little rule on it if your kid needs a rule, but you don't have to use the audio CD. So the CD is hit or miss with us, whether or not we use it. The Speak Truth book that I wanted my daughter and I to go through, we've done several chapters. Now I'm in my second semester where I had hoped to do a book study with my son. And so I'm trying to decide if I want to finish this book study from the Speak Truth book with my teenage daughter, or if I want to set it aside and maybe start it over this summer, which would reinforce what we've already read also, and jump right into Made in Our Image with my son. So I don't have an update on that except for this. The Speak Truth book is a lot to chew on, like good stuff, a lot to chew on. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not going through it as quickly, is because one chapter I could talk about every single day for half an hour with my daughter. Like, let's go through this, let's go through verses. It's really good stuff. So if you want something to go through for a women's Bible study or a mother-daughter Bible study, I highly recommend Speak Truth by Sarah Malley. So in conjunction with that and what I've been trying to think what I want to do, I did add something to my teenage daughter's workload. I felt like she should be taking on more on her own. So I asked her to read individually on her own another book by Sarah Malley called Before You Meet Prince Charming. And it's kind of about romance from a Christian perspective, but it's really about really females and what we should be before a man enters our life, if that makes sense. I talked about it in the talk video. I mentioned it in there. So she's actually going through that right now. She just started. And then I'm really hoping, I've mentioned this to you guys before, but I bought the Passport to Purity program, and I had intended to do it with my daughter last year, and we never got around to it, but I really intend to do it this spring with her. I will give you an update on that when we do it. Okay, back to IEW, teaching the classics. We are almost done with this one. We have done it together, all three of my kids with me. We've watched the videos together. Andrew Andrews teaches it, and then in the teacher's binder is all of the excerpts from the stories that he uses. And he's literally teaching as if I'm in the class. So he's teaching it, he's reading through what's in the manual, and then he's doing the analysis along with you. So you could do this multiple ways. You could let him teach it, and then before he reads through it and does the analysis, you could assign it to your kids to do, or for you to do on your own and see what you come up with, and then go through it with the video. We did do that on Paul Revere's Ride poem. Or you could just watch it and learn. And then there's all kinds of templates inside the Teaching the Classics curriculum. So far, I have learned a ton as a parent, and I know that my son and my middle child are able to grasp what is being taught. So you could certainly do that all together. My fourth grader is picking up bits and pieces, but I didn't expect her to be able to do everything. So she's just kind of tagging along with us on that. But if you struggle with literary analysis, this one is excellent. My family co-op day. So this was my idea to incorporate my high schooler to do some family learning with us. And the intent was every other Thursday. So we were going to have our family co-op day on the week where my daughters and I were not at our other co-op. I've stuck to this pretty well, and it has been really nice. It's been a nice break for my high schooler too. And we have been going through the Campfire Curriculum Meteorology unit, which is excellent. It's different than what I remembered when we tried out the Gather Round unit. We did Earth Science back in 2020. And so I thought that they would be similar, because meteorology is similar to Earth Science, right? Because weather and patterns and stuff. But the way that Campfire Curriculum is written is so much more conversational than I remember Gather Round being a little bit more textbooky. And so we have enjoyed going through that. It's a lot easier to get through a lesson. And then the videos that they have linked for almost every single lesson have been excellent videos. And then they give you all kinds of activities that you could do. We tried to make a weather vane. I think it didn't turn out exactly how we wanted, but they give you all kinds of options. So if you want to do a science experiment or something to reinforce what you just learned, you could. But I would say you also don't need to. We are not dabbling in the core connections. So Campfire Curriculum, in their unit, you can just focus on that topic. But if you wanted to make it like the theme of your homeschool and do writing lessons and history lessons with it, they also, as part of your digital package, they give you all kinds of add-ons you could do. We are not doing this because I had so many other curriculums, but when I was looking through it, I was like, man, there's so much you could do with this curriculum. And speaking of that, we also did their Christmas unit with the Christmas carols. We didn't get through the whole unit. We had sickness hitting us and all kinds of stuff in December, but I'm probably going to finish it next year. I loved the history part of the carols. And again, like, it would have links to where you could listen to the carols in different, like, listen to this artist doing it versus this one, and you're listening for certain things. But the history behind them, I mean, I love history, so that was the most interesting thing about it for me. We didn't do many of the creative activities because sadly my kids are getting older and less interested in those things. But if you have younger kids, they had all kinds of really neat ideas if that enthusiasm still exists in your house. Another thing that I had planned for our co-op day was a poetry unit on limericks. And then I was hoping the second semester that we would be maybe into sublogic. I have the Fallacy Detective book. I still have not found that book though. I don't know what happened to it. So we're going to continue on with our poetry study. I'm really stretching my older two, their brains with this poetry stuff, because I don't know what happened in their language arts education, but they have never learned a lot about poetry. There was some in The Good and the Beautiful, but like my son, he only did The Good and the Beautiful in 8th grade and 9th grade. Before that, it was all classical conversations, and we really weren't doing a lot of poetry. So I made them write limericks. We've read limericks. So that part, making them think differently and stretch their imagination, has been fun. So we're going to continue with that. there might be varying opinions on co-ops and whether or not they're necessary. I mean, even some years have done co-ops and the next year been like, I don't want to leave my house. But the co-op that we've been doing this year, it's only once every other week and it's only in the morning. It's very manageable, and I have to say, I actually look forward to going to it. I mean, that's the key. If you look forward to going to your co-op, then stick with it. Because one of the reasons I joined co-op this year, because this is one of the realizations that I'm starting to come to, is I just cannot physically facilitate every single thing in my child's education. I'm coming to the realization it's like I know this, but I continue to plan things that require me to have energy all day long, and I just don't. So it's kind of like that child who goes through a buffet line and their eyes are bigger than their stomach, and they piling their plate with a bunch of food, and then they realize, I can't eat all this. That's kind of how I feel about homeschool lately. I need somebody else to facilitate something. I need my kids to be able to do things on their own where I am not actively teaching. I can be a helper. So we are definitely enjoying our co-op, and I'm especially enjoying it because both my daughters are getting a great deal of science from that co-op, which means I don't really feel pressure to do a lot of science at home. So I'm satisfied with the co-op science and then the meteorology that we're doing. Learn math fast. So this is definitely one that I will be doing a future video about. And I have to say, I am really enjoying the simplicity of this math program. Besides my daughters going through this program, I also gave the last 6 books to my son because he's not doing any more high school math. He's got his 3 credits in, and now he is just trying to fill in these gaps so that maybe he can increase his math score on the ACT. So I gave him the last 6 books and said, you're going to take the fast track through these books. And he is through 3 of them. I think right now he's on the algebra book. After that is geometry, and then another algebra book. If he doesn't finish these books by May, whatever, it's fine. This is literally, he's going through this not for a math credit. He's not going through these books for a grade. He's literally just going through them to make sure that every piece of his math foundation is filled in, and wherever there is a crack, we can address it so that as he keeps doing higher level math, there won't be these cracks down here that we never fully addressed, and it just keeps getting harder and harder. So he's going through these for himself, and we will know the result of having done that when he takes the ACT again, and hopefully we'll see that math score increase. For my daughters, we're almost through the first book. Here's the one thing that I have definitely enjoyed about this curriculum. I'm not worried about them passing the time test. You know that I said that. I was kind of stuck on that at first, but then realized when I actually give my daughters flashcards, they can say the answers pretty quickly versus writing them, especially my 8th grader. She's pretty fast when I do the flashcards, but if I give her the time test to write her numbers down, for some reason she's slower writing it. I am focused more on accuracy and whether or not they actually get it before we move on. I did come to the point where I could no longer teach them together because thankfully my 8th grader was getting it faster than my 4th grader. So I'm to the point now where my 4th grader, we're working on her multiplication fact speed. She knows all of her multiplication because of classical conversations, but the quickness is not there. And in fact, I don't know if I want to say this is a drawback, but classical conversations taught them these facts by skip counting, which is very good to start with. But now my younger, that's still how she does it. So if she hears 6 times 7, she's going 6, 12, 18, 24. Like she's skip counting in her head rather than just memorizing 6 times 7. So that's what we're focusing on, is I'm trying to tell her, you need to see these numbers and you need to just know them. And it's okay that we're not moving on, because once she has that speed and accuracy down, everything else is going to be so much easier. I just love this freedom that I have found in my mind, that we do not have to move on. We can sit here and keep working on this. She doesn't have to learn new concepts. She can focus on speed and accuracy. So anyway, but my 8th grader got it. I mean, she was passing the test. Like I said, when I was timing her with flashcards, she was quick. So she has moved on, and she will finish this book before my 4th grader, and that's okay, because the simplicity in these lessons, it does not feel heavy to me. I am loving going through the math with them. And I will also say this, when my 8th grader, maybe she actually did make a lot of mistakes this past week, because we were doing multiplication times triple digits or something like that. And she was making a lot of silly mistakes. So I will either recopy the worksheet and make her redo it. So first I make her correct the worksheet she did wrong, and then I might recopy it, because it's not like she's got the answers memorized. So she can do the same worksheet over again. And then there have been times also where I have gone out to one of those websites with the free math worksheets and just printed stuff from there. So if you need more practice on a lesson, Learn Math Fast doesn't really give you extra worksheets for extra practice, but you can find that stuff. I haven't felt like I've had a lot of trouble with that. Okay, and then there's been a fun new addition to our homeschool. This was not on my radar. My kids found out about it and they wanted to download this app. So my son does have his own iPhone now, so he downloaded it. I had an iPad, we downloaded it there. I've got it on my phone and I've been doing it too, and that is Duolingo. Duolingo, where you can learn another language. So we are all going through it, learning Spanish, because my husband minored in Spanish in college. He can still speak it. He wouldn't say he's fluent. I think conversational is the term that he would say he is. But it's been super fun, and my children are going through it faster than me, because
Mama's brain, it just doesn't memorize as quick.
I did take 1 year of Spanish in high school, so luckily I remember a few things for these early on lessons, but I have a feeling as it goes on, it's going to get harder and harder for me, and it's still going to be easy for them. But Duolingo has been really, really fun. And actually, when I got on there, I realized, man, there's a lot of homeschoolers on here who I knew, who I was able to connect with. So we can give each other high fives and celebrate where they went or what they've done on the app. So that has been really fun. My kids actually look forward to doing it every single day. Also, one of you, and because I asked you guys what math fact apps you used, because on our iPad, for some reason, Extra Math was wanting me to pay $5 to download it again. So I was asking, maybe Extra Math isn't the best app for practicing your math facts. What else do you guys use? And somebody said Duolingo has math practice on it. So I pointed that out to my 4th grader. So she does practice on the Duolingo app. And then we went ahead and just, Extra Math was still on my phone for free. So I don't know what's going on with the iPad. So we're just continuing with the Extra Math app for extra math fact speed drills. Another fun addition we added into our homeschool, I actually talked about in this video, but my daughter started doing Night Zookeeper just for fun. So it's not something that I necessarily make her do. She does it whenever, she has a bunch of free time, and trying to keep her off of watching TV. And maybe she needs ideas for how to use her time wisely, and I don't want her to watch TV, because we try to keep the TV off during school hours up until 4 o'clock. So if she's got time on her hands and she needs something to do, she might do Night Zookeeper because she thinks it's really fun. I mean, again, you check out that video, you'll see the enthusiasm that she has for it. All these things that I'm mentioning, by the way, I will have them all linked down below. Some of them I am affiliates with. So if you use my link, they'll know that I sent you, and I do get a little bit of commission if you decide to purchase, which really helps me out in making sure I could keep this content free. Okay, now to finish up the other subjects that my high schooler is doing. So I already talked about his involvement with us for the campfire curriculum for our co-op day. I've talked about teaching the classics. and I've talked about him doing Learn Math Fast. So my high schooler going through his Fix-It grammar study and then also continuing on with the units of the IEW writing program that he didn't finish last year has uncovered some gaps in his grammatical abilities. I actually had to downgrade him on the Fix-It grammar because what I had purchased for him just advanced way too fast. It was getting really difficult, and I was having to help him so much. He was making too many mistakes where I just came to the realization this level is too advanced for him. So I have dropped him down to level 3, the same as my 8th grade daughter. And I just got it. So he's starting from the beginning to reinforce the lessons that he's already gone through, but he's doing 2 a day so that he can hopefully catch up to her by next month, and then they can go through it together. And then the IEW papers that he's writing, my son does not enjoy writing. Generally speaking, he's not somebody who's full of opinions that he wants to express. And that way it makes him an easy child because he's very obedient and he doesn't push back. But when it comes to having to express yourself and writing your opinions or just being creative in how you're communicating your ideas, that's kind of difficult for him. And I just recently decided I need to be more involved in his language arts in terms of writing papers. I have been a lot more critical of his papers this year, which has slowed him down. Because one of the other things I added on, his Economics for Everybody class, good basic economics class. I do recommend it. But my son went through that class pretty quickly. I was surprised. He was done with it before Thanksgiving. So I decided to add on a research paper for him. I said, pick a topic that you learned about, and you're going to do a research paper and write me a paper. So he's talking about like federal funds and how they're using. It was good stuff, but like when I think of it in terms of language arts, I'm like, this is like the thing that if you go to college, it doesn't matter what class you're in, you're going to have to write papers. And so I actually sat down with him for his last paper and went through how to write an outline. I mean, he's watching the Andrew Pudwa videos, but again, I don't think my son is enjoying sitting there watching the videos because he thinks that they take too long. And I get it. I mean, part of the thing about homeschool and what homeschoolers get used to is efficiency in how they do their studies, right? I mean, that's one of the things that they would hate if they went to a modern school, is how much time is wasted. If you're ready to go and you're ready to move on, they want to move on. They don't want to sit here and keep watching a video if they want to get down to it. But somewhere there's a disconnect. I don't know. I am getting more involved in his papers, and I'm going to have to be the teacher, I think. We've got some cracks in the foundation there, and so that is also going to be a focus, big time, of next year. Before I get into the biggest change that I'm making in my homeschool, forensic science. And this is one of those that I think maybe I will probably go more into detail at the end of the year, and I'll let my son contribute to this review video. But he definitely is enjoying the forensic science. It seems, and it's from Master Books. We have all together done some of the experiments with him, and he does some of them on his own. It kind of just depends on what the experiment is and what we've got on our plate. But I think it's one of those sciences where he knows the real life application, and it's actually interesting to him. Who doesn't like a good crime show or a good police show? So you've seen these forensic scientists before, like measuring blood splatter. He's had to do things where he had to measure certain bones between him and his sister because there's certain things in crime scenes where it might indicate how big the person was that was there. And so anyway, I know he finds this very interesting. It is a long, all master book programs, 180 lessons. It's a lot. He might not finish it this year, but next year, we might just finish it next year. I do have ideas for high school for next year, and it's going to be very unconventional for my son. I got a lot of things in the works, so you're going to want to stay tuned to see what I've been thinking about for him. Okay, now the biggest thing that I'm changing about my homeschool this year, and it all has to do with me. It all has to do with my attitude. I have come to the realization that I need to plan less for me. When my kids were younger, I do feel like in some ways it was easier because like if I'm teaching first grade math, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to like read through it and figure out how to teach it. Like it's easy. And those lessons might only be 10 or 15 minutes. And so we could get through school a lot faster when they were younger. I've come to the realization that because I love learning and I want to dig into this stuff, that I have been choosing to load myself with things that would require me to be actively teaching in some way past lunchtime. And
I just can't do it.
I am starting to let go of some things. And thankfully I can report with my 8th grader because I think she can do more than she lets on. I have been forcing her to do more on her own, and she has been doing it.
I told you could.
So anyway, I am not even necessarily teaching her, for example, her IEW lesson. Like she can read through it and figure out what she's supposed to do on her own, and then I can just check it and I can correct her. But she can go through it at her own pace, and that has been, that's been a burden lifted. Because my 4th grader does need me, but my 4th grader is also eager to get her work done. So that's what I'm doing, you guys. I am being very aware of my energy levels and what I can take on. And I am usually not actively teaching anything after lunch. Now, that's not to say that I'm not helping them. Like, for example, I'll check their fix-it grammar. I will check their math worksheets. I can check things. But I'm talking about actively saying, okay, let's sit down and I'm going to teach you a lesson. I'm working on just letting them go to see what it is that they can do, and then we will work from there. And it's also freed me up for my high schooler. So like I said, I sat with him the other day to help him write one of his keyword outlines. And because I was done actively teaching my daughters, I was able to do that with him. So I'm trying to be more flexible with my own schedule and offload some of the things to them. And I'm going to keep that in mind next year when I plan as well. If there was something that I did not cover, leave it in the comments below. And until next time, bye.